Alright, hello, welcome back to my channel, ladies and gentlemen, YouTube, and we're going to be showing you today how exactly you can build the best base you possibly can with as few mats as possible and the new challenge, the Horde event. So I'm going to give you a quick tour of what my base looks like as someone who's got access to Twine. My base looks a little bit better than yours might end up looking like, but with the mats that you guys get from playing this game, I will show you guys exactly how to build the best base you possibly can. So make sure to stick around for the entirety of this video. Don't just think to copy what I have here, because there are so many different things I have to explain about this that you guys, might need to understand and know if you want to do the best you possibly can whenever something gets broken or destroyed or you have to build more in when doing it. And if you want to be the envy of all your friends or all the randoms that you get placed with when they see your base, absolutely watch this tutorial and you will definitely make your way through the Horde Bash event. Without further ado, let's get into it. Okay guys, so before we get into any of those things such as building the base, I want to explain to you guys real quick what these things here do. So obviously we switched to our second account. This account is in Canny Valley, and I kind of want to explain to you guys step by step how to go through this. So when you first start out, depending on where you are in the storyline, you get a certain amount of skill points, right? And you want to spend them on as many of these tiers as you possibly can. So since my character on this account is in Canny Valley, I get enough points to fully upgrade skill tree tier 1, if I am correct. And then I should have enough to fully upgrade skill tree tier 2. But what these different upgrades here do, I'll explain real quick. So the ones on the top are the ones that you get to build when you're building your base initially. And then the bottom ones are the ones that you get to use when you're upgrading after the, you've loaded in the game and stuff. So when you first start out, this is the stuff that you have. It increases how far you can build out horizontally, vertically, increases the amount of stone and wood you start out with, as well as metal when you're very first starting out. And then when you load into the game, after you already have your pre-built bases set up, when it's your turn to defend your base or helps defend someone else's base, these are mats that you get to use once loaded in to craft, say, more traps, get more ammo, get more stone, more wood, more metal, all that good stuff. So you want to make sure that if you want to have a good build base to start out with, which I would recommend, use this. And then if you're more interested in just, kind of having more mats once you load in to build up your base afterwards, each and every game and having to rebuild that, this is really good, especially if you want the ammo too. So I definitely recommend the ammo. And then it's exact same thing with the second skill tree if you're in Plankerton. The only difference is that this is 2-star stuff. So like you'd use like traps that take 2-star mats or guns that are like level 58 instead of, level 34, I believe. And then this third skill tree, this is, your Canny Valley level stuff. This is what you want to use if you're focused on just having the higher level traps and all that stuff, if you already have it unlocked and leveled. But in the case of this, it's the exact same thing, but it's after you load in. So I focused on upgrading this stuff up here so I can show you as best as possible how to build your base. So now that we've upgraded the skill tree, we are on event mission number 2, which is build your challenge the Horde deployable base with at least 10 structures. So we go straight into the Horde, and we got to make sure that this is on private so no one else joins in, and we build our base. Alright, so the first thing you notice when you load in is that you have this console right here. What you want to do is you want to go to your storage and withdraw all. So we're going to be doing this twice for you guys. We're going to show you guys exactly how to build it, say you're in a higher portion of the map, and a way to build it on my third account, where you guys will be shown how to build it without, having too many mats to start out with, like if you were just now starting out at the beginning of the game. Most of you guys aren't going to be just starting out if you're watching this tutorial. You're probably someone who plays the game at least somewhat, Plankerton or Candy, something like that, and you want to see how to build a good base. Maybe even Twine, who knows. So what you want to start on is just build these ramps right here immediately. You want to immediately focus on building those ramps, and I would recommend doing it on metal. That way the enemies are not able to access it. And then you want to do this out of stone because it is slightly weaker, but it means that if different elemental enemies are attacking, they'll have to use, they'll have to break through 2 different ways. Like metal is weak against, energy, so it's strong against water and fire. Stone here is weak against water, so strong against fire and energy. So that means that, we'll be set up against 2 different elements right off the bat, just like that. Alright, now that we have this fully upgraded, which you may or may not have already been able to do, you should have some spare metal, which you can use to make these sections here. I don't have any traps as count as I haven't leveled any of them up, but you get the idea of what I'm trying to show you here. So I would recommend putting those in a metal, since the ramps are made out of metal, and then these walls here for the different elemental enemies to go through here. We don't want to build these walls out of wood, because if we did that, the enemies would just attack them and tear them down rather than walking through this section here, which is exactly what we want them to do. We want them to walk through there. We don't want walls here either, because then they'll start attacking these walls, those walls, all that good stuff. We want them to just walk straight in. And the next section here is you want to work on upgrading these ramps down here if possible, if you have the spare mats for it. Potentially these walls here if you have that as well, although most of you guys won't if you aren't in Candy Valley just yet. So I wouldn't worry about that too much anyways, because these walls don't need to be upgraded because they're not super important. They just cause them to flood into these 4 corners here. And then you want to make sure this is built out of wood, just because of the fact that you're not going to have much of any other mat at this point. You want to do this for each one of them. You want to make sure you have a... You want to make sure that you have a ceiling, a floor, a wall, and then have this little piece built here so that when the enemies come in, they can't just walk in like boom and then come in. They have to walk all the way around and then we'll curve all the way in, which means they have to walk extra distance to get in. Alright, so now that we're done with that, I recommend building a stairwell potentially like this. Oof, it didn't build. Alright, this way the enemies won't use the stairwell to get up because they'll be blocked, and you can jump up it if you're not a ninja, and use it to get to your roof much easier. Any extra mat you have for this, I'd recommend using. I have spare metal at the moment, so I want to build this out of metal here. This is not super important though, so because as long as you're not on the roof, the enemies won't be attacking the roof. Therefore, you don't need to worry about lobbers. But just in case, one of your randoms or your friends or something get on top of your roof, you have this little bit of extra protection. But instead of whatever, it's not super important. Although, if you do want to place defenders, these sections here are the best place to put it. So if they're attacking from here, you want to throw it here. Or if they're attacking from there, you want to throw your defender post here. You'll be given defender posts once you load into the game, sorry. But yeah. So this is what your base wants to look like if you don't have any traps. If you don't have all the mats, I recommend building your core out of tier 3, tier 2 if possible. And if not, I would just mostly work on getting the entire system built at the lowest level possible and then start upgrading the core first. So we don't have floor bounce traps here, but underneath each one of these ramps here, you want to place a floor bounce trap if possible. And then if you have like zap traps like this, like 4 zap traps, you can place 1 on each one of these roofs here. So when they come in here, they get zapped, and that'll help you out a whole lot. Another set of important things is like you can make like 4 to 8 of these or something, and you can throw them onto the walls right around, like you'll see it right here. We got it now. You want to make each one of your sections look like this if possible, or if you don't have wall dynamos, wall darts work just as well, so that when they first come in, they're hit by this dynamo, they take a lot of damage, they start moving in further, they get hit by this ceiling zapper. If they get here, they hit by floor bounce trap and get thrown all the way back. Excuse me. So that's how you really want to have your traps set up. You just want traps set up as best as possible throughout here. If you have either retractable floor spikes or floor spikes, you want to throw them there, because what they will do is retractable floor spikes will do a good bit of damage, but floor spikes, even better, it'll kind of just slow them down if they're getting through, if you guys get what I'm saying. So it helps a ton, it works really well and does lots of damage. So like I said, work on making this section here as strong as possible, but make sure that you have the entire structure built out so that they can't just like walk it through here. Like you don't want to miss a wall here, because then they can just walk in. Alright, and now we're going to move on. So, one of the things that's just as important as base building is making sure you come in prepared with items. So, as nice as it is to have these 5-star guns, you never actually get to use 5-star guns in your missions here. When you're doing Challenge the Horde, you want to focus on having weapons of 4-star rarity, 3-star rarity, 2-star, 1-star rarity, based on how far you're in the game. If you're in the Stonewood section, you only really need 1-star weapons. Stonewood, you need 2-star. Canny Valley, you need 3-star, and Twine, you need to focus on 4-star. But you need to have all of these. So if you're in Stonewood, only need to worry about having at least 134 weapon that you can use, preferably energy or physical in Stonewood. Any weapon would honestly work in Stonewood. Plankerton, I would always carry at least 1 2-star and at least 1-star weapon. Because these missions are going to be really easy because they're Plankerton and Stonewood. But still having a nice base and all that good stuff makes it even easier for you. You want to carry at least one weapon that you can use, preferably, like I said, physical or energy, or any elements. This is Plankerton. There aren't going to be too many elemental enemies. You can run whatever, but always make sure there's 1-star, 2-star. And then Candy Valley is when it becomes more complicated. I run a bunch of different weapons here. My 2 favorite weapons when running candy missions in this new mode is my Energy Terminator, and then any one of these elemental weapons. So I have a fire weapon for fire situation, when the enemies are nature, I mean. I have this for when the enemies are water. And then I had the water gun for when the enemies are fire. And then I have this gun if, I don't want to worry too much about like the element, or I want to give a defender weapon, which is a whole other story. And then Twine is where it really starts to get hard. So I have a bunch of different weapons set up for this, except I do not have any water weapons, to be 100% honest, that I use in this situation. So I always either run my Nature Siegebreaker or my Fire Siegebreaker. This works really well against water and nature enemies, and then this is what I use against nature enemies and fire enemies. So either one of these I can use for my nature. This one's really good against, nature, obviously. And then this one's really, really good against water. This is what I use against fire. I'm working on getting this Boy God rolled, so you want to make sure you always have at least 1 gun of each one of these. You also want to worry about having a purple. If you guys haven't noticed, I have 1 gun here that's purple. That's a 3-star. So that I have a gun that only takes rotating gizmos in case I don't get enough active power cells. And then in the case of the Silent Spectre, this is my 2-star. And then I should have a 1-star purple as well that's leveled up for lower level missions. So there, if I were, still running Stonewood or something. Melee weapons are important, but not nearly as important. I have a 3-star and 4-star just for flingers, but most people won't worry about flingers as much. And then same thing goes with traps. If you're in Stonewood, you only need 1-stars. If you're Plankerton, you need 1-stars and 2-stars. Canny, you need 3-stars, 4-stars, 2-stars. Twine, same exact scenario. Although I think having like a 1-star wall launcher or 1-star floor bounce trap is really helpful as well, because you don't need the impact as much. It's more important about the fact that it just only takes like tier 1 mats if you have actually like, mineral powder or something, so you can knock back enemies. So that's what you want to focus on with all this sort of stuff. What you want to move on to next is worrying about mostly like what hero you want to use. If you're running a constructor, I recommend either Hotfix or Hazard or Power-Based Knocks. What I do is I actually run Hotfix or Hazard with Power-Based Knocks, because Hotfix or Hazard collects the most mats over time. Because for every 2 building pieces, base generates 1 of that resource type every 60 seconds. Level 2 buildings are worth 3 building pieces, level 3 buildings are worth 6 building pieces. So he's generating twice as much, well not twice as much, but about 50% more than Power-Based Knocks is. The only difference though is that Power-Based Knocks gets a base radius of 7, and Hotfix or Hazard gets a base radius of 5. But I'd like to use this guy because my base isn't very big, it's very small and compact and strong. And this guy will make sure that my base heals because I run him in my support squad, and he gives me power modulation, which regenerates 5% of my base's max health every 10 seconds, which is super, super good. And then moving into the other squads, I would not recommend using an Outlander in this because farming materials does not get you anything, so you really don't need the extra pickaxe damage or anything. Running an Outlander would pretty much just be fun if you don't care about who you're running. But when it comes to ninjas, you need to use Dragon Scorch, or the female version of it, essentially. I don't believe I have her, which sucks, but he has this ability that's super, super powerful, which is Dragon Slash. He has a smoke bomb and all that good stuff. He's got insane, insane ability damage. Most of you guys should know who he is. Just know he's absolutely ridiculous if you just want to do tons and tons of damage without running through tons of ammo. And then in the case of using a soldier, which is the other options you can do if you want to do lots and lots of damage, you want to run either Urban Assault Headhunter or Master Grenadier Ramirez, which I do not personally have, but Urban Assault Headhunter and Master Grenadier Ramirez are very similar, although they are the two most powerful soldiers. Master Grenadier Ramirez is very, very focused on her grenades and does tons and tons of damage without having to use tons of ammo, but Urban Assault Headhunter is just slightly better with her guns, so she will put out tons and tons of damage with her guns, although you have to worry about the ammo situation. So the specific squad that I usually run is Hotfixer Hazard, this guy for bonus to start with damage because I want to do damage output with my guns as well instead of just traps and such. And then this guy to regenerate my base's health. But if I'm running, say, Urban Assault, I do this exact same build, but because I worry about ammo more since I'm using a soldier and I'm firing my guns a lot more, I run Bulletstorm Jonesy because there's a 16% chance to generate 1 ammo for the equipped weapon. So it's very, very useful. I don't exactly have a super good setup for, Dragon Scorch, so I run the exact same thing I do with Urban Assault Headhunter just because of the fact that, well, I want to make sure even though I'm using my abilities, I am doing some good bit of damage with my guns as well, so that in all scenarios, I'm pretty strong. And hopefully, this stuff's helping you. I really hope this is. I also recommend bringing in Defenders. Defenders can make a very, very, very big difference because these missions are 4-player missions. You can bring up to 4 people, but you can also bring up to 4 Defenders, which means 1 per person, or someone could throw it on 3 even, and another person could throw it on 1. I prefer to run double sniper because I run Obliterator and Neon Sniper Rifle, so I could craft either or one of each for these guys, and I can set up behind a wall and they'll snipe constantly through the wall and not take any damage. And then I run 1 Rifleman, just because of the fact that sometimes you need someone on the front lines, you need someone up there helping you gun things down quicker rather than just, sniping something down or something. She can also help tank damage every now and then and distract enemies. So hopefully this comprehensive guide will help you guys out a lot with this whole event. I would definitely recommend re-watching this video, re-looking at how I built my base and stuff. Just making sure you understand every bit of this so that when you start this event, you're going in as smart as possible, you'll know everything, you'll be able to teach your friends how to play, and just be prepared for anything. And without further ado, see you guys next time. Thank you guys so much for watching.
My hands steady, I feel ready, but my legs heavy, I don't get it. How come I haven't hit it already? Still working, I'm still learning, I'm still searching, finally earning